For our motor task presentation, we decided to do the motor task of hopping.
Alright, so hopping is a locomotor movement. Hopping is where you take off on one foot and land on the same foot. The locomotor task of hopping has multiple factors that influence how the skill is executed. The skill is done on one foot, making an L shape with arms swinging in opposition to the leg swing. Done in a rhythmic fashion as if it to a beat, the last hopping factor is controlled where the key objective is to maintain balance while hopping. On the bottom here, we have examples of the stages of motor development. We will be grading our students on each of the 4 stages. So to begin with, we got the initial stage with the foot in front, and then we got non-supportive foot in front with thigh parallel to the floor for the initial stage. And then for stage 2 and 3, we have the elementary stages. So we will be grading our students on these mainly because our student is in the elementary age. And then stage 4, we have the mature stage with a perpendicular free leg. An example of the movement is below.
There are a few rate limiters as to how a student will hop. On the individual level, there's a balance, coordination, and leg power. These will be influenced by age and physical ability of the student. Age will also be an important factor in telling which stage a student is in at that current time, or when they should be at a stage at a current time.
All right, for the first activity at the elementary level, we did hopscotch. So the equipment we used was polydots so that we could resemble of the movements that you'd be doing with hopscotch. So we had 6 total polydots, and then we just did 3 on the right side and 3 on the left side. So we had the student hop on one leg on just the right side, moving in, transitioning into the left side. So the overall goal for our students was just to hop from dot to dot. Lastly, our safety concerns is just falling from being unbalanced. That's just mainly the only safety concern with it. Our overall objective is to have the students control their distance of their hop by hopping on the polydots with using both legs with 3 polydots per side. Alrighty, here in this video here, we are performing the hopscotch. So I am showing the student here how to perform it here. So I will be doing it 3 sides on the right leg and then 3 on the left, and then I'll have him do it. As here you can see him doing it, and he did it very well.
For our second activity at the elementary level, we had our hop over the noodles activity. For this, our equipment was only 3 noodles. We had our student hop over the noodles on one foot, starting on their right leg, down, and then on the way back, we had them hop down on the left leg. Our main safety concerns for this activity was hopping and tripping over the noodles, because the goal for this activity was height, and if the student wasn't able to get that same height over the noodles, they could easily hit one and trip. And same for balancing. Balancing is always a concern when we're landing on one foot, especially for this age group. Our goal for activity 2 was to have our student hop over the noodles down on one side and back on the other, while gaining enough height to hop over each of the noodles and control their land afterwards. On the way down, we're going to use So in this video, you'll be able to see me demonstrating the hop down the noodles and then switching my foot on the way back so that our student knows what he is supposed to do. And then he hops down, and he hops back on his opposite foot.
Activity 3 at the elementary level was an obstacle course. We made an obstacle course out of polyspots and noodles. We told our student that the ground was going to be lava and that the noodles were spikes. So he had to jump from dot to dot and over the noodles. The dots would then guide him direction, and we would use the noodles as spikes to test the height of his hop. As you can see on the slide, there's an example of how we had our obstacle course set up. But with some safety concerns, we were worried about him tripping over the noodles or slipping on the dots. Our objective for this activity was to test the students' control over height and also distance all in one activity. To start the activity, I first showed him how to do it and told him he had to switch his legs halfway so we could test both his hopping on both legs. And as he goes, he does really great with his right leg, but he tends to struggle with his left with balancing. But overall, he did a really good job with this activity.
Alrighty, so after the activity, the student was exhibiting movements that would be considered in the elementary stage, specifically between stage 2 and 3. His body positioning was around stage 2, with his legs closer to stage 3, with the lean of his body.
For the elementary noodle hop, I would say that he was leaning closer to stage 3, which is the second stage of the elementary stages, with some of stage 2. He had his foot behind his supporting leg, and he does exhibit the bilateral arm movement and lean forward that would be associated with stage 3, but they are also very exaggerated with a deep lean and far out arms that would be more of a counterbalance for him. So it seems like he has more of a problem with balancing rather than with the specific finite movements of moving his legs, leg position, and arm movements.
With activity 3 in the obstacle course, I had rated my student at stage 2. He showed a slight body lean forward with bilateral arm action and a slight bend in his back supporting leg. I was on the border of moving him to stage 3 due to the fact that his knee that was up was behind him. But the problem was that his lean and his leg didn't help him balance when he needed it.
So for our first activity at the secondary level, we were doing a hopping line drill with our student. All we really needed was a gym with a line that we could use so that the student could have a place to place their foot and tell what they're hopping from one side to the other of. We did this for more of a speed drill so that we could see how, when doing it fast, if the student still maintained his form or not. Our main safety concerns for this is slipping and landing wrong, as this is tough to do sometimes, especially when doing it at a fast pace. The faster you go for any motor task skill, the harder it will be to execute perfectly. Our objective for this activity was to test our student on how fast they could do a movement while still maintaining form, and the hopping over the line in a different direction, changing the plane of movement that our student has to work in. So you can see me here demonstrating to our student how to perform this action so that he knows best what to do when it is his turn to do it. You can see me slowly showing him the motions that we need to do so that he can really see the finite movements of how he is going to do this. And then he goes in and he does it for speed.
Activity 2 at the secondary level, we decided to do the triple jump. A triple jump consists of a hop, a step, and then a jump. For some safety concerns, we made sure that there was nothing in the way so that our participant wouldn't slip or fall on any of the equipment. The objective is to test the distance of the student's hop in the triple jump. I started off with showing him the correct steps of a triple jump. So I first went with a hop, and then a step into a jump. And then it was his turn. As you can see, he starts off a nice hop, step, and then a big jump.
Activity 3, we have the layup. So we will be making the students do a layup. In the layup, we will focus on the hop that is used to get into the layup position. For activity 3, we have the secondary level layup. So the objective is to test the height of the hop and also to then transition in from running into the hop into the layup. video is an example of me performing the layup here. So next to me I have my student that will perform it next after me. So here I do the layup, and then I'm going to pass the ball off to him, and then I'm going to have him perform it while watching him transition from the hop into the layup.
For our first activity for the secondary level, we have our line jumps. Our student exhibits the mature stage of hopping, stage 4. This is because the student keeps his non-support leg bent perpendicularly to his support leg. The student also pumps with his non-support leg to generate the force to hop, but doesn't bring it all the way forward like they would in stage 3. The student has a forward body lean and shows the opposition swing of the arms when completing the hop, but it's not so exaggerated as to throw him off balance.
With activity 2 in the triple jump, he does a great job of showing good rhythm and bilateral arm movement with also good balance in his jump. For the combination of all 3 movements to go together seamlessly, the student has to first complete the hop with a high proficiency to then execute the following movement.
Alrighty, so following the secondary layup, it was a 4th level mature skill in my eyes. The combination was between the dribbling motor task, hopping motor task, and the shooting motor task. The focus of this was on gaining the height to get the basketball close enough to the backboard to shoot. And also, the main focus was for the student to keep his leg perpendicular and the pump upward to gain the most amount of height possible and successfully perform the basketball shot into the layup.
When comparing the 2 students, you can obviously tell that there was a big margin in skill level. Like stated before in our grading, the elementary student had trouble with balancing, not understanding that if he was leaning too far forward and not using his arms correctly, that he'd fall over or else he'd have to take a gather step. Compared to the secondary student who had great balance due to having a good forward body lean and also using the opposite arm swing and leg technique. Going off of talking about balance, in the videos you can tell that the elementary student had a lot of trouble with balancing with its left leg and was very right foot dominant and wanted to keep using its right foot to balance. Compared to the secondary student who had really good rhythmic movement, and not in just being right foot dominant, but also showing the great movement of his left leg in the hop. If you go back to the videos, you could tell that the elementary student just wasn't as fluent and didn't have that good of a rhythmic movement compared to the secondary student. When talking about body control, it's obvious that the secondary level student had way more control over its body. A good example to show is just the arm movements. In the elementary level student, you could tell that he doesn't really know what to do with his arms but swing them, compared to the secondary level who uses the opposite arm and leg technique. Like we said earlier in one of our slides, rate limiters were going to be a big role. As you can see, balance, coordination, leg power, age, and physical abilities is the reason why there's such a dramatic difference in skill levels. Although our student at the elementary level wasn't at the same level as our secondary student, we found that he still met elementary stages. He was in between a stage 2 and a stage 3, which is good or average. And with our secondary level student, we found that stage 3 and stage 4 had a good fit for him. With stage 3, he showed that he met all the expectations that needed to be met, and also understanding the different levels of hopping. And at the 4th stage, he showed many characteristics why he belonged in this stage. He showed wonderful body lean in his triple jump, where he leaned forward to accelerate a farther hop, and also at the same time showing the arm opposition with the leg swing to get better momentum. He also showed a good knee pump forward and backwards in a perpendicular action to help him be successful with his hops.